Welcome back to Superhero Explained. Today we are talking about 7 times Lobo pushed Superman way too far. Because Superman can handle villains, he can handle monsters, he can handle gods. But Lobo is different. Lobo is what happens when a bar fight gets superpowers, a motorcycle, and zero emotional regulation. Number 7. Adventures of Superman number 464. This is the classic one. The fight that basically created the whole "can Superman even beat Lobo" debate. The clash starts when Lobo comes after Superman and ends up taking the fight straight into the Fortress of Solitude. And that already tells you how annoying this guy is. Most villains attack Metropolis. Lobo pulls up to Superman's private alien man cave like he got invited. Why is this important? Because right away, Lobo proves he's not just some random strong guy. Superman hits him hard, but Lobo keeps coming. He is loud, cocky, violent, and absolutely not impressed by the big red cape. And that is how he pushes Superman too far. Superman usually controls the room. Here, he is fighting inside his own home, and Lobo is basically trashing the place like a drunk guest who will not leave. The ending is the best part. Superman does not just overpower him. He tricks Lobo with a hologram, making him think he already won. So yeah, Superman survives. But the fact that he had to outsmart Lobo instead of just beating him clean, that tells you everything. Number 6. Superman, the Man of Steel number 30. This one is extra disrespectful. The clash starts after Superman has already died and come back. So what does Lobo do? He shows up trying to finish what Doomsday started. That is insane behavior. Why is this important? Because Superman's death was not just another bad day. Doomsday actually killed him. This was one of the biggest moments in his life. And Lobo basically walks in like, cool story, my turn. That is how he pushes Superman too far. He's not just attacking Superman physically. He's poking at one of Clark's biggest wounds and treating it like a joke. Lobo does not care that Superman went through hell. He just sees a chance to prove he can do what Doomsday did. The fight gets ugly, and Superman does start holding his own. But like a lot of Superman and Lobo fights, it does not end with one clean knockout. The situation shifts. Bigger problems show up, and they have to move on. So Lobo does not get the full win here, but emotionally, he absolutely gets under Superman's skin. Number 5. DC First Superman/Lobo. This one starts in the most Lobo way possible. Somebody hires him to take out Superman. That is it. That is the motivation. Not revenge, not justice, not some deep villain speech, just money. And that is why this one matters. Superman is out here protecting people, saving planets, trying to do the right thing. Meanwhile, Lobo is basically saying, yeah, cool, but I got paid. That is what makes him so frustrating for Superman. You cannot appeal to his better nature, because his better nature is probably asleep behind a pile of broken bottles. Lobo pushes Superman too far by making this whole fight feel stupid and dangerous at the same time. Superman is trying to protect lives. Lobo is having fun. Superman is thinking about consequences. Lobo is thinking about how hard he can punch before lunch. And the ending is perfect. The fight does not stop because Superman gives some inspiring speech. It stops because Lobo's client breaks the contract. That is such a Lobo ending. Morality does not stop him. Paperwork does. Number 4. Superman Beyond number 14. This one is a little different because we are dealing with an older Superman. And honestly, that makes Lobo even more annoying. Because this version of Superman has seen so much, survived so much, and probably thought he was done dealing with this kind of nonsense. But no, here comes Lobo again. The clash starts when Lobo gets pulled into a bigger mess, and of course, he makes everything worse. That is basically his superpower. Yeah, he's strong. Yes, he can heal. But his real power is turning any situation into a disaster with extra punching. Why is this important? Because Superman is not just fighting Lobo here. He's trying to handle a dangerous situation while also protecting others, including Martian Manhunter. And that is exactly how Lobo pushes him too far. Lobo can fight like a selfish maniac. Superman can't. Lobo can swing wildly and not care who gets hurt. Superman has to think about everyone around him. That split-second care becomes the problem. Superman gets distracted because Martian Manhunter is in danger, and that gives the enemy an opening. So how does it end? Superman gets captured mid-battle. Not because Lobo is morally superior, definitely not that, but because Lobo helps create the kind of chaos where Superman's compassion becomes a weakness. Number 3. Superman American Alien number 7. This is one of the best ones because Clark is still young here. He is not fully the calm, experienced Superman we usually know. He's still figuring out what kind of hero he's going to be. Then Lobo shows up. The clash starts after a huge explosion in Metropolis. Clark runs into this wild alien bounty hunter, and at first, he tries to talk. Because of course he does. It's Clark. He wants to understand before he starts throwing punches. Why is this important? Because Lobo does not just challenge Clark's strength. He challenges his identity. He starts throwing ugly truths at him about being alien, about Krypton, about the universe, and Clark has to deal with information he's not fully ready for. That is how Lobo pushes him too far. Clark wants peace. Lobo gives him trauma and violence. Clark wants answers. Lobo gives him attitude and a motorcycle. And eventually, Clark realizes talking is not going to fix this one. So, the fight turns brutal. Superman does win, but the real ending is bigger than the punch. This fight teaches Clark something important. Being Superman is not always about inspiring people with kindness. Sometimes it is about standing in front of the worst guy in the room and making sure he does not get past you. Number 2. Superman vs. Lobo, number 1 to 3. This whole series is basically Superman being forced to babysit the universe's worst roommate. The clash starts when Superman and Lobo get dragged into a bigger cosmic mess, involving new men, attention, popularity, and a whole lot of chaos. And the reason this one matters is simple. It understands the joke. Superman is discipline. Lobo is damage. Superman is hope. Lobo is what Hope has to clean up after a 3-day bender. They are complete opposites. And that is exactly how Lobo pushes Superman too far. It is not just that Lobo punches hard. It is that Superman has to manage him. He has to stop the threat, protect people, and also make sure Lobo does not make the threat 10 times worse by being Lobo. That is exhausting. It gets even crazier when reality-shaping powers enters the picture. And now, Superman has to ask the worst question possible. Can he trust Lobo with something this dangerous? No, obviously no. That is like trusting a raccoon with your tax documents. The ending is messy, chaotic, and very on-brand. They have to deal with the bigger threat, but Superman spends half the time fighting the situation and the other half fighting Lobo's personality, which honestly might be the harder fight. Number 1. Superman number 14, House of Brainiac. This is the modern one, and it's a perfect final entry. Superman is dealing with Brainiac. Metropolis is in danger. The stakes are huge, and somehow Superman has to work with Lobo. That is already a terrible idea. The clash starts because Superman and Lobo have this shaky partnership during the House of Brainiac storyline. But let's be real, a partnership with Lobo is not a partnership. It is a countdown to betrayal. Why is this important? Because this is not some random side fight. This is happening in the middle of a major Superman crisis. Brainiac is moving. People are in danger. Superman does not have time for nonsense. Unfortunately, Lobo is professionally nonsense. And that is how he pushes Superman too far. He betrays him. The partnership falls apart. And now, Superman has to fight the guy who was supposed to be helping him, while Brainiac's plan is still happening in the background. That is the nightmare of Lobo. He is useful enough that Superman sometimes needs him, but unstable enough that needing him becomes a whole separate problem. And how does it end? The fight gets interrupted when Superman is captured mid-battle. So again, Lobo does not get some clean final victory. but he does something almost as bad. He wastes Superman's time at the worst possible moment. And that is really the thing with Lobo. He's not always stronger than Superman. He's not always smarter than Superman. He's definitely not more heroic than Superman. But he's strong enough to survive, reckless enough to escalate, and annoying enough to make even Superman think, I cannot believe I have to deal with this guy again. Superman can beat villains, but Lobo is not just a villain. Lobo is a headache with regeneration. And that's it. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and comment your favorite moment down below. I'll see you next time on Superhero Explained.